Oh, hello again.
If you've been here before, you know what to expect. I usually make fan edits of Baldur's Gate 3 videos, but today's going to be a little different. Today I want to share with you why this video game, and Astarion's story in particular, is so important to me. I had no idea that this funny vampire man was going to help me re-examine my own story and bring up traumas from my past that I had repressed for a while and I didn't even really understand. So I'm really grateful to Larian and all the writers and all the actors for the work they put into this game that's really been impactful to not just me, but I know so many other people in the community. And I hope that as we share our stories with each other, we can help grow in our empathy for each other and see that, life isn't about good guys and bad guys. It's about complicated characters. And if we get to know each other better, I think in a small way, we can make the world a better place somehow. That being said, I will be bringing up some traumatic events from my past, and it might be triggering in some ways to some people. So if things get a little heavy, please feel free to skip to the end. I am doing a Baldur's Gate 3 art giveaway. I hope you like some of the things I've made. So learn more about that at the end of the video and how to enter the giveaway. With that, let me share with you 8 things about Astarion's story that are similar to my time spent in a religious cult.
It was a group of Gur that attacked me that night in Baldur's Gate. I would have died had Cazador not appeared and saved me. Well, he didn't mention the slave clause at the time.
The worst part about cults is that it's not entirely obvious that they're trying to take your power at first. Instead, they show up presenting as a friendly group of people trying to meet a real emotional need in your life. For me, the cult served as an easy way to make friends in college. So I grew up in the same small town my entire life, and I never really had to make friends before. I had no idea how vulnerable that made me to this group that would eventually become my only source of social connection. In my case, it was the International Church of Christ, otherwise known as the ICOC. I'll link some information about that specific group in the info box below if you're interested in learning more. What makes the ICOC unique is that on the outside it might seem like a normal church with a bunch of friendly people, but the reality is that it is a high control group. But you might not realize it until after you've been in it for a while. And at that point, it might be too late.
To the public, Cazador is an ordinary noble, a little reclusive perhaps, but just another of the great and the good of Baldur's Gate. Factions, nobles, politicians, he had information on everyone. If he controlled even a fraction of these, the city could be his, and no one would ever know.
Effective cults don't want to scare you off too quickly, so most of them use this technique called love bombing. It's a way to manipulate people where they overwhelm you with positive, friendly behavior at the beginning, to the point where you think that this is the best group in the world and they make you feel really, really good about yourself. The problem with this is that they're doing it in order to have a larger influence over you later. Unfortunately, this tactic worked wonders on me, an introverted, intimidated freshman. Later, after joining the group, I learned this was entirely intentional. Targeting new college students was a primary recruitment strategy used by the ICOC, and they called it Save the Freshman. The goal is to become someone's best friend right away, and then they'll take all of your time with nightly dinners, Bible talks, midweek, Friday night devos, Saturday encouragement dates, and Sunday church. Eventually, they will always ask you to study the Bible with them. It's not simply a group of friends talking about the Bible, though. It's a coordinated, scripted indoctrination study series, and its purpose is to utterly break your sense of self-worth in order to reshape it into whatever the cult wants it to be. And all of this happens in a matter of months before you even realize what's happening.
I was in the prime of my life when I was turned. Everything was taken from me, too. I never want to see these little scraps of misery again. The world doesn't need to know my shame.
Astarion was a very young elf when he was turned, around age of 39. Because of his job and his party banter, it's safe to assume that he craved power before he became a vampire, and he probably thought he was above the petty troubles of the lower class. I'm sure he didn't expect to be attacked that night, and in that moment of vulnerability, he was willing to do anything not to die. Which is why I think it's so incredibly convenient that Cazador showed up just in time to offer him a solution. He offered to save his life and promised him power beyond anything imaginable. Exactly what he wanted.
It's simple. Just find a vampire that will drink your blood and turn you into a vampire spawn. Their obedient puppet. In theory, the next step is to drink their blood. Once you've done that, you're free and a true vampire. Yes and no. The problem is, once you're a vampire spawn, they completely control you. They have to allow you to bite them. And why would they do that? Vampires are power-hungry creatures. They won't lose a servant to create a competitor. Trust me, it doesn't happen.
The goal of any cult's indoctrination is eerily similar to what happened to Astarion. They're trying to get you to die to your old self and be reborn a new creation. The ICOC Bible study series, over time, will subtly convince you that you can't trust your own judgment. You can't possibly make your own decisions because you don't know the Bible well enough, like they do. They'll teach you that you're inherently evil and that God hates you because of your sin. Ultimately, they're trying to convince you that without repenting and being baptized the exact way they prescribe, you will die and go to hell. They'll continue to harass you until you have a visible breakdown with crying and other signs of helplessness. They're looking for this to show that you are truly repentant and willing to do anything to become right with God. When they think you're sufficiently broken, they'll make you confess that you need to be saved, then ritually bury you in baptism to be reborn a new creation, dying to yourself to become a slave to Christ, making all your decisions based on what He commanded in order to receive eternal life.
I was attacked. A gang of vagrants, a tribe of wandering Gur, took issue with a ruling I'd made. They beat me to death's door when Cazador appeared. He chased them off and offered to save me, to give me eternal life. Given that my choices were eternal life or bleed to death on the street, I took him up on the offer. It was only afterwards I realized just how long eternity could be.
There's a fan theory that Cazador set up Astarion to be attacked by the Gur that night. It seems that the Gur are singularly focused on monster hunting, not killing magistrates that they disagree with. It seems too convenient that Cazador just happened to be there as Astarion was dying in the street. In that moment, Cazador convinced Astarion that becoming a vampire was the only option to save his life. In Baldur's Gate, there's so many ways to help someone in Astarion's situation. There's clerics, druids, healing potions, and we've even used Revivify and Resurrection. They're all on the table. Any of these would have been more reasonable than becoming a vampire. Astarion had money. He could have gotten help, but Cazador took advantage of the situation and convinced him that all other options would lead to death. Only he could save him. The description of how Astarion was turned, how he was saved from dying, buried, and raised a slave to Cazador in order to receive eternal life, all of these down to the same terminology used to describe the conversion process that I went through, was very eye-opening for me. Looking at Astarion and thinking he was stupid for becoming a vampire is easy to do. But I did it myself. I gave over control of my life to someone else in a moment of vulnerability for the vague promise of something better to come. I can empathize with Astarion because I made the same choice, having the same weakness he had.
Enjoyment? That didn't come into it. I never had a choice. They wanted me more than I wanted them. I used that to my advantage more times than I care to remember. There's nothing more desirable in the world than a vampire, is there? Haven't you been through all I have? You damn well are going to fight with what few assets the gods give you. But a part of me feels sick when I think about getting on my back for breadcrumbs again.
The main source of stress in a lot of cults is the incessant pressure to recruit new members to the group. Every waking moment that isn't spent attending a function is used to recruit new people and inviting them to your events. We were pressured to convert everyone we knew, including our family, friends, even strangers. Because now that we had the gift of eternal life, it was the most loving thing we could possibly do, even if they didn't want it. For us to save people from hell was our main mission.
I've seduced people who repulsed me more times than I can count. Most people are idiots. You can lure them into a dragon's maw if you promise a bag of sweets. I know that dance better than anyone, but I always felt nothing. It's a game I'm tired of playing. Being used, controlled, puppeted for someone else's pleasure. But not anymore.
In the ICOC, members were expected to be in multiple Bible studies at a time, often neglecting their schoolwork and sleep in order to have perfect attendance at all functions, and recruit as many new members as possible. It became like second nature for most of us, finding the vulnerable people that might be open to the message, people sitting by themselves, classmates needing help with homework, or joining new clubs just to meet new people to invite back to Bible talk. Our time was spread so thin. You saw the people that we were spending time with as potential convert targets, not friends. Like Astarion, you're no longer a person with interests and hobbies. Your only purpose in life is to bring more people into the cult.
I tried to pick beautiful people where I could, but there were so many over the years. After a while, you stop caring. The entire reason for my existence was to seduce anything with a pulse. And every instinct I have tells me that nothing's changed. I'm still just a means to an end.
If we didn't have any visitors to the Bible talk, we would soon be asked how many people we were inviting, how many people we reached out to. And we had to give a count because it was an indicator of how seriously we were taking it. I began to have real anxiety over this, feeling like I was a liar, knowing I wouldn't be friends with any of these people if they didn't come to church with me. So I stopped talking to people outside of the ICOC at all. I wanted to avoid that awkward, invite you to church conversation that inevitably always happened, making me more and more dependent on the ICOC as my source of social connection.
Look, I had a plan. A nice, simple plan. Seduce you, sleep with you, manipulate your feelings so you'd never turn on me. It was easy. Instinctive. Habits from 200 years of charming people kicked in. All you had to do was fall for it.
The natural consequence of having to convert so many people was to learn how to love bomb others the way it was used on you. You learn to make people feel special, cared for, and loved without actually investing any of your own emotional energy into them. Something Astarion is especially good at. In the ICOC, the people who are good at evangelizing became the leaders within the organization. Astarion would have fit right in with this crowd, the most attractive, charismatic, and emotionally detached members of the cult. For better or worse, this is the one case where I didn't share an experience with Astarion. I wasn't considered sharp, I wasn't worth investing in, and I was quickly put aside as soon as I was baptized. Unfortunately, in this case, I shared more in common with the 7,000 imprisoned spawn than I did with Astarion.
You. I know you. You're the one from the tavern.
The last time you heard this voice, it was singing drunkenly, whispering sweetly, then sighing with pleasure. One of your conquests claimed for Cazador. He should have been consumed long ago.
I recognize that voice. You You were in the Blushing Mermaid.
You stole my life. You stole my death. I can never forget you. You smiled and joked and got me drunk. You called me so many sweet things. My name sounded like a lyric on your tongue. I want to hear you say it again. Say my name.
He looks at you expectantly, his hollow eyes boring into yours. You remember the taste of his lips, the heat of his body, and his name.
Sebastian.
You remember me.
You were handsome. Shy. You'd never been kissed.
You taught me how. You were my first. And my last. And then you destroyed me.
Sadly, as soon as someone was baptized, it was very common for the love bombing to immediately stop. All those friends you just made, months studying the Bible with you, sitting with you at church, giving you rides, they were your best friends. But now that the mission was accomplished, they quickly move on to the next target. There's no longer any reason to spend time on you. That's what happened to me. Those not having the desired qualities of the cult, the natural charisma, good looks, or influence, we were neglected. Because of this, we were constantly questioning whether or not God was happy with us. Those who weren't leaders were kept around to take our money, provide free labor, and give the church legitimacy, but we weren't worth investing into. Many of us were forever trapped in a prison of our own mind, either chasing that tiny carrot that maybe someday we might be leaders, if we tried harder, studied the Bible more, anything. Most of us put in this position have to deal with the feeling that we're never good enough, hopeless to overcome the regret and resentment, like the 7,000 spawn put there by the 7 siblings.
You know, I didn't realize you and I were so alike. I felt paralyzed to do anything about Cazador for so many decades. I gave up on myself. I gave up on any hope of escape after a few lashes.
A lot of people join cults because they're afraid, and they think the cult will save them. Fear often gets people in the door and then shuts it behind them. Fear should only be an acute emotion felt in response to immediate danger. However, if a person is conditioned to be in constant state of fear, their logical mind decreases and is replaced with a reactive emotional one. If you operate out of a stress response, you're more easily manipulated by people offering you easy solutions. Outsiders may find that things people inside a cult do inside the system of fear to be completely illogical. But to those inside, it's the only thing keeping them alive and safe. Because this heightened stress response, their hormones have been turned against them, making them feel like they're in a constant state of danger.
Have you fallen so low without me? And after you abandoned us? Look at you. Crawling back after abandoning your family. You should be begging our forgiveness.
Forgiveness? You've never forgiven anything. Every mistake, every slip was punished.
I strove for perfection in all things, even those as imperfect as you.
In the ICOC, people had disciplers, a person you met with regularly to get advice from. This practice is no longer required today, but the culture remains. It's expected that every member of a church get advice about everything they're doing from some other member of the church. It isn't simply advice, though. If you don't do what they advise you to do, it's met with judgment. Because of this, people are socially pressured to do what they're told for fear of punishment and consequences of not following the advice they were given. Many people I know made serious life decisions based on the advice they received from others, including who they dated, who they married, what jobs they took, and how much time and money they gave to the church. The fear of judgment was enough to keep most people in line. But if you resisted taking that advice, you would be seen as a prideful, rebellious person, only listening for what your itching ears want you to hear. You would be considered a problem and not taken very seriously by the rest of the group.
Oh, that's no way to welcome back a brother, doll. Didn't you miss me?
No. You were a piece of shit. And you're still a piece of shit. And as arrogant as ever. You think you can just walk back in here with some stupid quip on the eve of the Master's ascension? You believe that most self-centered, arrogant, egotistical one of us all is here to save the day? When has Astarion ever done anything that isn't in his own self-interest?
Save us? That lickspittle only ever wanted to save himself. The rest of us be damned. And now you think we'll throw away our chance at freedom by bowing to you? You were always weak, brother. We don't follow weak.
I think this is similar to how Astarion operated within his family. They all saw him as the selfish, rebellious sibling, always being punished. He was known by them as the weak one, but I think he was the strong one. He resisted Cazador and was punished severely for it, but that resistance allowed him to keep a piece of himself, someone who believed he could escape one day. When we meet the other siblings, it's clear that they've been fully programmed. But Astarion never gave up hope and continued to fight for a better life. Granted, he was willing to kill them all, but I do admire his ability to maintain hope through nearly 200 years of torture. He is unusually optimistic given what he experienced. His ability to see opportunities past the pain is a very beautiful aspect of his character to me.
This thing won't have you. It won't win. Easy now, darling. You've got this. And I've got you. You'd do the same to me. Now just relax. Dawn isn't far off. You're not alone in this. None of us are. We can even compare notes if you like.
Although many people think Astarion is morally gray or even evil, I think his ability to encourage the protagonist through similarly traumatic situations is one of the reasons why his character is so beloved by his fans. This is especially true with his interactions with the Dark Urge. He sees their suffering and finds connection and empathy through processing his own trauma with them, more so than any of the other companions in the game that I've found. I'm truly inspired by how he chose hope in the face of fear, and his ability to help others when he is still trapped himself.
You don't know what it was like. There was no way out. Once, in the first decade of my slavery, I found a darling boy who I couldn't bear to bring back to him, so I ran. Instead of hurting that sweet man. After Cazador caught me, the bastard sealed me, starving, inside a dusty tomb, all on my own for an entire year. A year of silence. Months of scratching my hands raw, trying to carve my way out. More months of not moving at all. Months wishing only for death. So don't you ever judge me for doing what Cazador ordered.
Astarion's most traumatic memory was the time he was completely isolated for a year. Shunning and excommunication are some of the most effective deterrents for misbehavior of cult members. To many, the fear of being completely alone in life is a fate worse than death, just like Astarion accounts. Cults often pressure you to break bonds with old friends and family members, so that if you ever entertain the idea of leaving, you won't have anyone to go back to. They'll tell you not to be unequally yoked to a non-believer, but what it does is make you completely reliant on them. Now that they control everything, they can threaten to take it away from you if you don't act in the way they want you to. Something similar happened to Astarion. After being isolated for a year, he never disobeyed like that ever again. The threat of being disfellowshipped and kicked out of a church is a danger looming over the more rebellious members. The fear of losing everything and being left completely alone is enough to keep many from leaving.
And what am I owed? What about the injustices I've suffered? Am I not entitled to anything? All that matters now is killing Cazador. I've earned that, if nothing else. We can deal with the prisoners when the time is right. After all, they're not going anywhere.
After years of living in fear, people become numb to the suffering of others. After being treated like your life means nothing outside of the context of you bringing new people to the church, you lose a lot of your ability to sympathize with others. You don't see people as people. You see them as fruit to be harvested. There's good fruit and bad fruit, and low-hanging fruit to be plucked and thrown in the pile with the rest of them as you move on to the next mission field.
Didn't he tell you? He's the one that kidnapped us. He's the reason we're spawns. I'll kill you!
Yes, now that you mention it, I may have done that. Don't look at me like that. Cazador's orders. Quite the deviation from my usual routine, of course. Capture, not lure. I didn't bring them in with sweet rolls or anything. I really forgot about them. Felt nothing the moment I handed them over to him. Oh.
Astarion felt nothing when he turned over the Gur children. Many can't forgive him for this. They think only evil people don't care about children. But in cults, people sacrifice their children at the altar of righteousness every single day. I saw it and bore witness to the results of it. Children born in the ICOC are called kingdom kids. They had increased pressure and scrutiny placed upon them from the day they're born. There was an expectation that they would be perfect, to know all the right answers, to be pure in every way, to respect, to submit, and to accept that they were special and everyone else was lost. This pressure put upon these kids led to the creation of either the next generation of ICOC leaders or completely traumatized, burnt-out, faithless adults. In the ICOC, I'd guess about half or less of Kingdom kids stay after graduating college. These parents thought the best way to love their children was to keep them from sinning and save them from going to hell, not supporting them in their exploration and discovery of who they wanted to be as individuals. I think both Astarion and these parents are numb to the suffering of others because they've been living in a culture of fear for so long. To me, empathy is not calling Astarion or these parents evil. No doubt, their behavior is bad, but it's too easy to think that their evil morality is the cause of their actions. Instead, we should be spending our efforts holding the institutions accountable that create these environments of harm and fear, rather than the individuals suffering within it.
Cazador Zar is a vampire lord in Baldur's Gate, the patriarch of his coven, and a monster obsessed with power. Not political power or military power, I mean power over people. The power to control them completely. A vampire's spawn is less than a slave. They're a puppet. We have no choice but to obey our master's commands. They speak, and our bodies react. It's all part of the deal. Sometimes he'd order us to submit to torture. Sometimes he'd have us torture ourselves. Whatever his weather-vane mood settled on.
Power is only accumulated by a person when they take it away from someone else. In an egalitarian system, everyone is equal in worth, status, and dignity. Because of this, cults can only thrive in a patriarchal system. Cazador is the very definition of the classical patriarch. Cazador had power not because of his own abilities, but because he had control over people. He dominated his spawn directly, and exerts influence over his followers and other nobles through empty promises of them having power by being associated with him.
A pity you amounted to so little, despite my efforts. You owe me everything, you fetid little rat. I gave you this immortal gift. I made you part of our great purpose, part of something grander than you could ever be alone. I shaped you into what you are. Without me, you are less than nothing. You truly forgot my power. You truly thought our bond as creator and creation was all that stopped you from killing me? Oh, you are weak, my child. You are a small, pathetic little boy who never amounted to anything.
Most cults that I'm aware of use a strong, unwavering patriarchy to maintain the fear and power over their disciples. Patriarchy isn't simply the celebration of masculine men, but a strict social structure where all people are scrutinized. Women and gender nonconforming individuals more obviously, but men also suffer greatly under a patriarchy. In a patriarchal system, there's no equality, there's no humanity. It's only those who dominate and everyone else who are made to submit to them. In cults, patriarchy is framed as ordained by God himself as the only right way to live. In the ICOC, men must always lead the women, and women must submit to them. Wives are treated as an accessory to their husbands, like Eve was a rib to Adam.
Being close to someone, any kind of intimacy, was something I performed to lure people back for him. Even though I know things between us are different, being with someone still feels tainted. Still brings up those feelings of disgust and loathing. I don't know how else to be with someone. No matter how much I'd like to.
Many wives in cults feel like they are living with a cazador, either because their husbands are actually cruel, or because the culture convinced them that they were less than their husbands through the cult's teachings and consistent emotional manipulation. They had no authoritative power in their marriage. They were to accommodate all of their husband's requests and had to submit to his decision-making in all aspects of their relationship. Many religious cults enforce purity culture, an inherently patriarchal system where women don't own their own sexuality. It's owned by God. A woman's purity was seen as a gift to her husband, and men were asked to control their urges. For everyone, there was a prohibition on masturbation and any kind of physical exploration, with many couples not even kissing before they were married. Obviously, none of this is healthy or helpful, but it is used by the cult as a tool to maintain control over both men and women. If you can have fulfillment, validation, and spiritual connection through romantic relationships, that's less power the cult has over you. Couples not meeting these purity standards will be forced to break up, and if they refuse to end their relationship, they'll be kicked out of the church. Not for domestic abuse, not adultery, not sexual assault, but for consensual premarital sexual activity.
It would have been so easy to bite her, to just go along with what I was being told to do. A moment of disgust to force myself through, and then I could have carried on just like before. You made me see that I never stopped thinking like I was his slave, even in freedom. But I'm more than that. More than a thing to be used.
Cults aren't trying to foster secure, self-actualizing relationships. They're designed to foster codependent, trauma-based relationships. It's in a cult's interest to condition relationships to be less about fulfilling each other's wants and desires, and more about serving the church. You're conditioned to give of yourself at your own expense, using Jesus as the ultimate example of that. Couples, both dating and married, were told that God and the church were to be the main priority in their life. If people genuinely loved their partner and wanted to spend exclusive time with them too much, they were made to question their commitment to God and the church. They were labeled as selfish and not being a good disciple. Amongst dating couples, many think it'll all get better when they get married, but in many ways, it gets worse. After living with all the shame and guilt around sexuality for years, a couple is expected to fulfill their partners overnight, with all the anxiety and pressure that came with that expectation. Unsurprisingly, for this and other reasons due to living in a strict patriarchy, many people in cults don't experience healthy, secure, loving marriages.
There's nothing more desirable in the world than a vampire, is there? Haven't you been through all I have? You damn well are going to fight with what few assets the gods give you. But a part of me feels sick when I think about getting on my back for breadcrumbs again.
I distinctly remember attending marriage retreats where the women and men were separated into groups. The women were taught that they were largely responsible for the faithfulness of their husbands. Because he married us, we were his only outlet of sexual gratification. It was cruel of us not to meet his needs by denying him. It didn't matter if we weren't in the mood or didn't get anything out of it, because it was our job. If he was lusting after other women, it was because we weren't meeting his needs, a duty we had to fulfill. Just like Astarion, we were objects to be used for someone else's pleasure. The trauma of not being in control of your own body is one of the worst parts of patriarchy. You're no longer a person, but a thing to be consumed.
The Master has always been strict, but we're better for it. That's why we're worthy of freedom, of being elevated. And you're just a runt to be put down. But if he is telling the truth, then he can prove it. Go on, brother. Show us what you can do.
How? It's not possible.
It's a trick. Some glamour or spell. True power only comes from the Master. And it will be ours soon.
You always were an idiot, Petras.
People join cults because they think it'll give them power to overcome problems in their life. They stay in cults because the promise of peace they were given in the beginning is constantly being moved just outside their reach. Cult members are made to think that if they only studied a little harder, if they reached out to a few more people, if they were in a little more Bible studies, volunteered more of their time, gave more of their money, prayed more, believed more, or a better person, then maybe they would feel saved. If they tried a little harder, maybe they would be rewarded for all their sacrifices. Maybe they'd finally feel like they were accepted by God and others. But it never happens. The relief never comes. They're never good enough for the church or for the God they serve.
I don't know. It's been so long since I've had to decide what I wanted. I don't know what to think. I don't know what I want. It's been so long since I've had to make these decisions for myself. I won't lie, it's a daunting prospect.
The empty promises of a blissful afterlife are waved in front of people's faces so much that they willingly give up their own power to make decisions for themselves. This is in hopes to please a God that they don't have direct access to, because only the cult's leaders have the wisdom to tell you what God wants to make him happy. You're trained to submit your will to a 2,000-year-old book interpreted by uneducated narcissists, because you're told over and over that your heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. You simply couldn't trust your own judgment. How many times has the Bible meant to bring salvation been used as shackles? No one in a cult gets out with their free will completely intact. The longer you stay in, the more comfortable you become with allowing others to make decisions for you, and the harder it is for you to see yourself as worthy of respect and autonomy.
Just don't ask me to sacrifice my body. It hasn't been mine for so long. I had nothing for so long. Nothing. Not even my own body. I will not give it up. Now it's mine again. Look at us. We've never been more powerful. And being able to walk in the sunlight opens a lot of doors for me. Maybe some coffins, too. I existed. That was enough for him. He reveled in having power over me. Because those with power can do whatever the hell they want. Exactly. I can be better than him. Stronger. More powerful. More... Oh, you meant be kinder. Pet bunnies, that sort of thing. I've no objection to being nice, of course, once I have the power to bend others to my will. Is it? What good is freedom if I'm always watching the shadows? No. I'll be safe when I'm powerful enough to grind Cazador into the dust. Powerful enough to do whatever the hell I want. Well, yes. You can't look at the world and tell me I'm wrong. Oh, I hope so. A little corruption sounds fun. The thing that will decide my fate forevermore. Yes, it's been on my mind. Why? I hadn't really decided on the specifics. Obviously, we could stop the ritual, or... not. What? I've obviously thought about it. If I was the one who completed the ritual, I'd have such power. And I could walk in the sun without fear I'd turn into a mind flare. I don't relish it, but my siblings lured thousands of people to their deaths over the years. I doubt Baldur's Gate would miss them. Of course, I don't even know if I could complete the ritual. It may be impossible, but it certainly is tempting.
When people begin to question the actions and doctrine of the cult they're part of, some think that if they had enough influence within the group, they could steer it in a better direction. That goal is usually well-meaning. You know your own intentions are good. You know you'd never abuse people the way you were abused, and you want to keep that from happening to others. You may think that the message that they're preaching is good, but the problem is with the people currently in charge. They're out of touch and don't realize the burdens or harm they're placing on people. But if you could just have a little power, then maybe you could move the church in a different direction. Maybe your efforts could make the difference.
Poor fools. They actually think Cazador will save them. You sound surprised. I am capable of doing the right thing from time to time. They're no threat to us. And they have no choice but to do Cazador's bidding. I pity them. Worst of all, they don't know their fate's already set. They're doomed. The only question is whether their lives will be sacrificed to a monster like Cazador, or serve a greater purpose. 7 sigils on 7 spawn. And Cazador has the other 6. We have to face him and take that power for ourselves. Well, yes, technically, only I will ascend and gain the ritual's power. But we're a team. If I become all-powerful, then we become all-powerful. This ritual could set me free. And you want what's best for me, surely. Trust me, I'd rather slaughter someone else's family, but if that's what it takes, then you'll help me in this. Nothing would make me happier. What does it matter? There's only 6 of them, and they are vampire spawns. I'm doing this for you too, you know. To make sure we're both safe. Forever. For good.
Members who find themselves moving in the direction of being a leader in a cult will have more expectations and indoctrination, more time spent around the church, more pressure placed upon them, additional consequences of failure, and will be expected to give up more control over their lives, including who they can be in a romantic relationship with, where they'll live, and what their future jobs will be. If you make these sacrifices to become a leader within a cult, you may not realize that you're being groomed to become a specific type of leader. This grooming will slowly erode your original good intentions of making the organization better to be replaced with your new mission of maintaining the status quo and protecting the church at all costs.
Cazador and his rite of profane ascension. An imperial soiree, attended by devils and spawn alike. A grand ceremony to honor one exalted vampiric master. And elevate him to an unfathomable station. To place him in a position of such esteem. The world will yearn to kneel and offer their necks. Of course I envy him. Why wouldn't I? The problem with what Cazador has done is that he did it to me. We will kill him, but there's more to it. Think about it. It sounds like Cazador, for all his evils, has gotten further than any of my kind ever have. He's on the verge of a miracle. This may be a beginning, not an end. I can see myself now. Lord, King, Master. If the time comes and I can stay one move ahead of him, I'll take his place before his blood can hit the floor. Doesn't it sound delightful? For the lucky little vampire on the winning side. What's a handful of the wretched servants? If they're anything like me when I was enslaved, they're all but begging for death anyway. After 200 years of shit, pure shit! I think I deserve something better. We'll be glorious, both you and I. You'll have your day too. I know you do. It matters to me as well. I want to be able to protect you, too. All I'm saying is, let's be clever about it. If an opportunity arises for me to become a more magnificent bastard than I already am, why turn it down?
To advance within a cult, you have to model your behavior and personality to become more appealing to those already in power, trying to make friends with them and moving closer to the inner circle. In the ICOC, this was called being sharp. This essentially meant being charismatic, knowing how to use the Bible to persuade others into conformity, and being uncompromising with the sin you see in others, and having a force of will, demonstrating you were someone worth listening to. This personality type was modeled after the original cult's leader, but was emulated by many leaders within the organization. Listen to a few sermons from the ICOC, and you'll find that many evangelists have the same way of speaking, with similar cadence and tone. That isn't a coincidence. Sharp people are chosen to not only lead their congregations, but also become the example by which other people will follow. This is similar to how Ascended Astarion takes on characteristics and mannerisms of Cazador, because that's how he thinks a powerful vampire acts. You want to be powerful, so you imitate powerful people. Astarion is doing what was modeled to him, like Velioth before Cazador.
You need not fear anything. Everything lies ahead. I can see my path to a waking dream. From the Crimson Palace I will govern day and night. Create a city of spawn who bow before me, cast a fog over the world for my children. I wish we could retreat into our palace already and spend a decade in each other's arms. But first, we must manage the trifling matter of the brain. Perhaps it will listen to us. Perhaps it too will serve. Love, look what's in front of your very eyes. We could have everything. As much as I wish to sequester you in a deep chamber of my palace and keep you all to myself, there's much to be done. First, we'll take Baldur's Gate. Then, we'll take the world. We'll dominate it until the sun itself melts. And then, we'll give ourselves to the night.
Astarion can't show weakness. He has to build his power quietly in the shadows, make an army of spawn to do his bidding, and on and on and on. Astarion originally wants to ascend because he wants to be safe, be able to walk in the sun, and protect his friends. But after he gets the power he wanted so badly, his new plan is to black out the sun so he can take over the world. This is similar to how when people finally obtain power within a cult. The original plan might have been to help others and change the organization for the better, but eventually, it always leads to serving the original purpose, to dominate people, never to help them. The system of control is stronger than any one individual, and it will always be that way.
Spawn is an ugly word. I really do prefer consort. Just don't stray too far. But you'd never dream of doing that, would you? Why would I need to? You're going to be wonderfully obedient. I know. I'm better than he was. Stronger. Finally free of my past. I'm who I always wanted to be. I have everything I ever wanted. Silence! How dare you speak his name? I don't have to take this from you. You ingrate.
Once you finally become a leader within a cult, you may think the mission is accomplished. I can relax now, but you cannot. The only way to keep power is to fiercely guard it and continue taking it from others. There will never be an end to recruiting more members, more money, more influence, more impact. It's a cycle of control. To maintain it, your family and personal desires must all be lower in priority. Astarion is no different. He never mentions wanting to turn his lover into a spawn until after the ritual is complete. But after this, in order to make sure he isn't betrayed, he insists he must turn them into a spawn. Astarion will never trust his partner not to take his newly acquired power, because he just took it from Cazador, who took it from Velioth, who took it from their master, and so on.
Please. Everything is about power. Sex, relationships, violence. They're all just different forms of control. And now you think you can stand there and tell me how to feel because what? Because you care? Your hands are as bloody as mine, darling. Why would you go along with any of this just to pretend you're innocent now? Of course I understand love. All too well. The gravest crimes committed in this world are committed for love. A hunger crueler than bloodlust. I know how to play with it. And I can't resist playing the hand I know. I would have ruined your love. Used your trust until you were nothing.
True love is based on mutual trust. Now that Astarion has power, he doesn't see the need for cooperation, partnership, or love. He believes his power will get him what he wants: safety and security. He became the person he hated, as much as he denies that's what happened. But this is always what happens. The culture of the cult will ultimately control you. You'll never be able to control it.
But you saw something in me. Someone else I could be. Someone who could break the cycle of power and terror that started centuries ago. You saved me back there. I may not have appreciated it at the time, but I do now. Thank you. You did more than that. You believed in me. Believed I was enough. Just the way I am. Invigorating. Terrifying. All of the above. I'm still trying to understand it, really. So am I. Fun as all that power would have been, this feels more me. When I look at my future, anything and everything feels possible now. And I get to share it with you as a partner. An equal. You saved me from myself. And let me walk a new path where I can be free. Truly, honestly free. This is a gift, you know. Thank you. I won't forget it.
The only option to survive a cult with a sense of self is to escape it. You have to leave everything you know. Friends, support, your concept of God, everything. It's terrifying. In cults, they convince you that everyone outside the group is going to hell, a place where you'll be completely separated from God and all things good for the rest of eternity. When people left the ICOC, they were said to have fallen away, meaning they are no longer following Jesus correctly, no longer saved, and are disfellowshipped. It was common for leaders to say people left the group because they wanted to sin it up and live a life without accountability. They were painted as selfish, people who didn't want to follow Jesus anymore. Because of this villainization of outsiders, people inside had a hard time seeing leaving as a viable option. It takes extreme situations for most people to leave.
Heroes are half the damn problem. Fools that believe in right and wrong, good and evil. Heroes didn't save me from Cazador. Mind flayers did. They gave me a gift. The strength to take my own freedom. I'm embracing this power. You should too.
20 years in, and I didn't see any life outside the ICOC, even though attending made me feel less than myself. Not like a person. I didn't have some heroic moment where I realized things were bad. I wasn't so badly abused that I couldn't take it anymore. It was COVID-19. Heroes didn't save me from the cult. A worldwide pandemic did. I know the shutdown was very traumatic for many people, with family dying, disrupting lives, and causing more harm than good. But for me, it was a lifesaver. Having the opportunity to get away from all the meetings, the constant pressure to perform, the expectations, all of it.
You are simply a means to an end. I made you to be consumed.
I am so much more than what you made me. I can do this, but I need your help.
All you can see are those eyes you've seen so many times before, pleading with you to help him. You can see the fear in his eyes, but also the hunger. The thick smell of blood in the air and the promise of power being so close is intoxicating to him. All he can see is the power of the ritual and the freedom that power brings. The freedom to do anything, to be anything.
You're right. I can be better than them.
What will you be without me? A shade? A spectre in the shadow? Devoid of all purpose? Hero? You think they will sing songs of the blood-drinking savior? The one who lurks in the shadows?
Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Oh, cling to that if you must, but no, it is a lie. He's mine.
He's not wrong. There's always going to be a part of him in me.
Stepping away and being myself in the quiet allowed me to see that I didn't have to do this anymore. There's a reason why cults control information, because they don't want you to have the chance to see the truth. The truth that I am inherently valuable, and I don't need to sacrifice myself in order to be worthy of love and respect. Myself and many others used the pandemic as an opportunity to get away. Without it, I may still be there. I'm not sure. But I am grateful for COVID for that. Even so, it was hard to leave because I truly cared for people there. And I knew that leaving the cult meant leaving my social support and friends behind.
Cazador sired 7 spawn. Me and my 6 brothers and sisters. He always insisted we were a family, even when he was carving scars into our flesh. I was one of his first. Some of the others came years later. He was a monster to us all, but did take special pleasure in my pain. He said my screams sounded sweetest. Now that I'm gone, I don't know. I pity the other 6.
People join cults because they lack something. One positive thing that comes out of being of a cult, if you can call it that, is that you do form deep, genuine, meaningful friendships with people. The problem is that they are all forged through trauma bonding. When groups of people are suffering the same traumatic experience, they seek each other out for comfort because anyone outside the situation wouldn't understand what's going on. You feel crazy, constantly questioning what's right and wrong. You know that what you're experiencing isn't right, but you can't leave because you believe you won't be accepted by anyone outside the group. So you try and find the safest people inside the group that you can. The reason why I and so many others stay so long inside cults is because of those relationships. We don't have other friends and don't know who to talk to. That wouldn't make us feel like we were weak for staying in an abusive situation for so long. People join cults to have meaningful relationships, and people stay in cults because of meaningful relationships.
I'm still nothing, aren't I? Just an expendable frail spawn who will burn to a crisp soon enough. Oh, I'm glad I still have the power to surprise you. Even if it's the only power I have left. easy to say when you're not the one facing a lifetime of hunger in the shadows. I can go anywhere, do anything, indulge in whatever hedonism or carnage I like, once I stay out of the sun. Not everyone lusts for blood, darling, or could be cursed to an eternity in the shadows if they lose their brain parasite. So into the dark I go. I didn't want to inconvenience you with my age-old curse. Darkness. I was cast into it. The sun was banished from my life. Forbidden. And we all lust after the forbidden. Oh, that's a familiar feeling. Darkness and loss. I had a chance to live forever in the sun. To be free. Of the hunger that racks me day and night. My chance to become more than some wretched spawn.
Just like Astarion experienced, leaving a cult will make a person feel empty. All their time was spent around these people. All the holidays, weekends, baby showers, weddings, late nights, birthday parties, everything. It was a sense of belonging, a purpose. We had a mission to seek and save the lost. Now we have nothing. No direction, no one to tell us what to do or think. We have to make our own decisions and trust our own judgment after decades of being told not to. Always struggling with feeling like we matter and that we are inherently valued when we were convinced our own wants and needs didn't matter. That we'll be spit out of God's mouth because we no longer please Him.
I don't know what I feel right now. I'm trying to absorb everything and... Hells. It's so much. I thought things would feel different when he was gone. That I'd be reveling in my freedom. Still, this will take some getting used to. Cazador being gone. Cazador took up so much room in my life. My memories of him. My need for revenge. Now there's just a blank space where he used to be. It's strange, knowing I'll never hear Cazador's voice again. Knowing it'll never command me to bow against my will. I just need some time to let it sink in. To figure out what it means now that he's gone.
2 years after leaving the cult, I still find myself thinking about it more than I probably should. Just like Astarion, it took up so much space in my mind. Now there's just an empty space and a feeling of incompleteness. Like I should be doing something, but I don't know what that is. Never feeling like I'm doing enough. Still needing to earn my place in the world, but now I don't have anyone keeping score. It's a confusing state of mind to be in. It meant a lot to me to hear Astarion say this out loud. Everything isn't instantly better after you leave a situation like that. It takes time, new experiences, and new relationships to move through it.
Maybe. But he did take it. There's almost nothing left of the person I was. Just a name on a rock. I've been dead in the ground for long enough. It's time to try living again. With everything that life has to offer. Gods above. He kept Sebastian. I should have known what Cazador was capable of. He's played us for such fools. Not just 7 spawn to placate the devil. 7 spawn and 7,000 souls bound to them in blood. Everyone, whoever trusted me enough to let down their guard, innocents, idiots, and the unlucky. You're right, I am. How could I not, after coming face to face with the ghosts of my past? Actually, ghosts would have been preferable over starving vampire spawn. On the one hand, they're the key to my unlocking eternal power and freedom. On the other, well, it's my fault they're here. Yes, it was Cazador's command. I had no choice, but it seems now I do. It's just sickening. Seeing them again. I don't know what else. Many of them are petty criminals, street drunkards, and brothel goers. But from time to time, there was a Sebastian. I know they will. I know I won't. It should be. I don't want to be like them. They're pathetic. Horrible. Don't hate me. I just did what I had to. I swear. I did what I had to. They do not. That weakness in me is dead. It's dead! I have a higher purpose. Gods, I can't say you're wrong. I can only say I'm so glad we didn't meet then. I don't even want to think what would have happened to you. I would have killed you.
After you leave a cult, you have to acknowledge the harm not only done to you, but the harm you caused others. This can be a very difficult phase to move through. Depending on how high in the organization you are, you do more or less harm, but I don't think anyone escapes without negatively impacting someone. Like Astarion, cult members are both victims and victimizers in some capacity. We were trained to manipulate people, so we convinced others that they were going to hell if they didn't conform. We were convinced that sex and gender nonconformity was bad, so we shamed others expressing themselves outside of what was permissible. We were told to submit to our husbands and lead our wives, so we left with resentful marriages. We were pressured to train our children in the ways in which they should go, so now we have irrevocable rifts with our kids and grandkids.
Everything that happened to those spawn is my fault. In a way. I suppose that's the less convenient side of freedom. Having to live with the choices you made.
We left jobs, relationships, opportunities. We left future lives that were never realized, lost to time, never knowing what could have been. Regret, shame, sadness. These dark emotions linger like a shadow, the scars we bear for being in that situation for so long. Like Astarion, we subconsciously know that this darkness shaped who we are and will always be a part of us.
It feels ridiculous to still be thinking about Cazador. He's gone. I'm here. I won. But I still keep reliving everything that happened. Playing it over and over in my mind. Perhaps. It would have been terrible fun. But then again, I could feel something slipping away. I came so close to losing myself, losing everything I've learned since meeting you. You're not wrong. Cazador left his mark on me in more ways than one. For a moment, I wanted to be just like him. I came so close to losing everything back there. To losing myself. Back at the ritual, all I could see was the power on offer and the safety it promised. I was so blinded by it. Just as Cazador was.
Oftentimes, the only people I feel I can relate to in a meaningful way are other ex-ICOC members. We're all working through these complex emotions together, and I'm grateful to have found them. They're the only people who really understand what we went through and how our brains are wired. Sadly, this seems to be the case for Astarion as well. Once the Nether Brain is defeated, the party members go their separate ways. If unascended Astarion isn't in a romance with the protagonist, he either returns to his siblings in the Underdark, back to the people he was previously trauma bonded with, or he becomes an adventurer, apparently all by himself. He's discovering who he is, but he hasn't learned how to make new friends outside of the context of trauma bonding, and I feel this is true for many cult survivors.
Cazador used his tortures to strike terror into me. But I've rarely been more afraid than on the night when I feared Baal had claimed you for good. I may be guilty of a bit of embellishment here and there, but I'm no liar. When I vowed we'd save you, we will save you. This little adventure of ours has taught me that we can't let our lives be ruled by fear, or else we never really live. I'm not afraid. Not of you. Not of your darkness, and not of our future.
People join cults because they're afraid, and the fear that started it all doesn't magically go away after leaving the cult. A major risk factor after leaving a cult is to immediately join another one. You could leave an evangelical Christian cult and jump right into a New Age cult, an MLM, or any number of extremist political groups. Ex-cult members may feel safe in these new high-control groups, finding easy community and easy answers after the past traumatic experience. You may think these groups are a welcome change, but they're not. It doesn't matter the subject matter because cults are all about power over people, not about helping them, regardless of the topic matter. When leaving a cult, you have to be hyper-aware of what makes you afraid and anyone trying to offer you simple solutions to fix it. You are vulnerable, and rightly so, but you can't let your life be ruled by fear, or else you'll never live for yourself. It's hard, it's scary, it's confusing, it's lonely, but it's not impossible. I've managed to get by these last 2 years mostly through distraction, work, family, and hobbies, but I didn't really deal with the trauma. I just stuffed it away and moved on. Then in 2023, the long-awaited sequel to my most favorite franchise was released in August. I loved Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on 3. I didn't realize that this game and this vampire elf would wake me up, but it did. I know I should have went to therapy or something, but this game woke me up. I realized that I need something new, something better, and it's going to take work to get there. I can't just ignore this anymore and pretend that it's going to go away by itself.
It's not a plan yet. More a feeling. Just an itch at the back of my mind. But I know I'm missing something. Whatever Cazador did to me, it was more than his usual sadism. It had purpose. Once I know what that purpose was, maybe a plan will present itself. But for now, I just need to scratch this itch.
So I don't have an answer for how to deal with trauma, but the first step is recognizing it and naming it so it doesn't hold power over us anymore. If you've experienced being part of a cult or any other traumatic experience that this game spoke to that allowed you to be seen in a way that you didn't know you needed to be seen, I invite you to go on the journey too, of empowerment and self-realization. If nothing else, we can be inspired by the stories we tell each other and know we aren't alone in this. Thank you for hearing my story. I hope it can inspire you to think about leaving a high-control group if you're currently in one. If you're recovering from being in a high-control group or other traumatic experience, I hope you'll find comfort knowing you're not alone. I hope we can all have more empathy with each other and know that we have the power to change ourselves and inspire others to be better. Thank you to Larian and the wonderful community that arose around the love of Baldur's Gate 3. I hope you have a wonderful year ahead of you. Take care of yourself, gather your party, and venture forth.
This thing won't have you. It won't win. Easy now, darling. You've got this. And I've got you. You'd do the same to me. Now just relax. Dawn isn't far off. If anyone understands an internal voice forcing your hand, I do. But that's not who we are now. We make our own choices. And you made the right one last night. You're not alone in this. None of us are. We can even compare notes if you like. I don't hate you, because this is not you. But whatever this is, you will get through it. And I'll be here to make sure you do.
Thanks for making it to the end. This video took so much longer than I expected, both in how long it was going to be and how long it took me to put together. I've been working on this for several months now. The next video I put out is going to be much more similar to what I was doing before. My plan is to start a new campaign with 2 of the companion characters. My plan is to have them talking to each other, so we'll see how I can edit it together to make that happen. I'll be putting out a poll later next week to see what you guys are most interested in. So the options I'm thinking of are Lysel and Shadowheart, Karlach and Will, or revisiting Astarion and doing Astarion with Gale. So I hope that's exciting for you. I want to go through their stories again and actually have them talking to each other, because usually when you're playing origin characters, you don't talk as origin characters. So I'll basically be doing 2 run-throughs simultaneously in parallel and then editing them talking together. So I hope that's something you're looking forward to. I also plan on doing some videos on how to make some Baldur's Gate 3 themed items, like a plushie, maybe something like that, because I am launching a store where I'm selling some of the things that I've been making. Making YouTube videos is not my primary hobby. I've been making dolls and other things like that. I've been doing that for about 15 years, and I just thought this was a good opportunity to share some of the things I've learned with you all. So if you want to make your own plushie, I think that could be fun if we did that together. So the name of my store is Poppets and Playthings. You can see the link to the store and all of the information in the info box below if you're interested in checking it out. So in light of that, I'd really like to give away some of my prototypes that I've been experimenting on. You can see here some of the things I've made. I'll be making dice bags, and I designed some tarot cards with the characters. Right now I just have Astarion and Gale, but I plan on making some other designs in the future. As you can see here, the dice bags have the embroidered on the front and pockets inside, and they close, and I put little charms on the ends because I just thought that would be fun. The Astarion ones are going to have a bat and a dagger, and the Gale ones are going to have little magician hats and a cat. They didn't have any tressums, so I'm just going to have to go with a cat here. So hopefully that's all right. And if you'd like to enter the giveaway, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and like the video, be a subscriber, and make a comment down below. You can comment about anything that resonated with you with this video, or anything else that you'd like to talk about to start a conversation. And I'm going to show on the screen here the 3 options of the giveaway. And what I'd like you to do is just do a hashtag or pound symbol and the number of the item you would like to get in the giveaway. So for example, you can say, hey, thanks for making the video, and then you do hashtag number 2, if that's the one you like the best. So take a look at the options, comment down below, like, subscribe, and at the end of your message, just put hashtag and then the number of the item that you are most interested in for the giveaway. My plan right now is to give away 1 item after about a week of this video going live in February 2025. Then I'll give away a 2nd item if and when this video gets over 1,000 likes. And I'll give away the 3rd item if and when this video gets more than 20,000 views. So please feel free Like I said, like and subscribe and share the video so that more people can see it. My hope is not only to be entertaining, but also educational, to sort of raise awareness of sort of some things that people are going through, and hopefully it can inspire some good conversation in the comments below. And if you've made it all the way to the end of the video, I'm going to give you an extra special something. I'd like to give out a coupon code, since this is my new store and it's just brand opening, for 20% off of any item in the store. So that coupon code will be NewStore20. You can see it on the screen right now. So if you use NewStore20, that coupon code will be valid through March 2025. So thanks again for your support. Thanks for liking the videos. Thanks for watching. And the next video is going to be more Baldur's Gate 3 romance, the different cutscenes. So hopefully you'll let me know which couple you want to see next. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.